Right, here we go. I promised you a video, and I've picked this one because this question, I've seen it like 3 or 4 times, and they love it. And in my opinion, right, if you can do this question well, it's going to be worth so many marks, so it's really worth it. Right, the question is asking, what's the best way to reduce a UK deficit on their current account? So the first thing you do before you all do this map is you try and say an intro. So I would explain what a deficit on the current account is, which is fairly easy. Then after I said that, I'd talk about how the UK normally has a massive deficit on its current account. In one past paper I've seen, they've talked about it being a deficit of about 20 billion over a number of years. So that's a massive deficit, and you can talk about how that'd be a withdrawal from the circular flow, so that'd be bad for the economy. Anyway, once you've done that, you want to get on with doing the policies because there's so much you can say with this question. You can get there's loads of marks to go. There are 4 different options you can do. One of them is a expenditure reducing policy, which is a bad one because it means there can be less spending in the UK economy. And then there's going to be expenditure switching policies. And these are all about getting people to switch their spending from on imports to spending on our sort of goods. So anyway, where are we? I'll start off with this one. Right, reduce aggregate demand would be one policy to improve our trade deficit. You'd first of all, what's that? Oh. Right, you'd first of all do this. You'd zoom in and you go to how it would work. So I'll draw a diagram first of all. The diagram is just an AD-AS diagram with AD going down. Right. I won't bother labelling it all. But you can see this policy, I'll label it, I might as well. With this policy, the price goes down, but output in our economy goes down loads. So the idea of this policy is, if we reduce AD, at least people in the UK won't buy imports. So if they're not buying as many imports, that'll be better for our trade balance. Now, we all know that's a stupid idea because as AD goes down, there's going to be lots of other problems. The R but is there's going to be, and you can put it here, conflicts with other objectives. So at the same time as, yes, we're getting a better trade balance, but the problem is we're getting a reduction in growth. So that's bad for people's living standards. And also it's bad because if there's less growth, there'll be an increase in unemployment. And you can talk about that I can't spell unemployment. You can talk about that being cyclical unemployment. And also you can say, and if you want, remember that diagram that I did today in the lesson, where you could talk about how, where are we? That's government spending / tax, and that's real GDP. And you can talk about how, when the economy is doing badly, they get less money in from tax, and they have to spend more money. So it's also bad for the government, the amount of money the government would get from tax. There we go, look at this. We're having to pay more money in government spending here, and we're also getting in less tax. So it's a really bad idea to have the economy going down like that. So that is a stupid policy, and it's a dreadful one, but the good thing is it's got loads of R buts. Right, on to the second one. Right, supply side policies. For me, I would do supply side policies last, because they're, in theory, the best ones. But I'll just do them now quickly. With supply side policies, why will they work? Because supply side policies are epic. They make our goods more efficient, more productive. I'm going to do a better arrow than that. Right, they'll also provide incentives, and they'll make us more competitive abroad. So they're better. So that's the good things about supply side policies. But after you said the good things about them, you then want to draw the diagram for supply side policies, which is an easy one, where you've just got the AS going to the right. I'm not going to do all the labels for it because you know what you're doing. Just do not even think about doing a diagram like mine in the exam. You've got to label it. Right, moving on quickly downwards. The downsides of supply side policies are they take time. Whoops. They're expensive, and we know at the minute they're too expensive and we can't afford them because we're in too much debt, and they don't always work. So remember, when you're doing those things, make sure you do a bit of a sentence on why they take time, why they're expensive, why they don't always work. Don't just state them because you won't get many marks. Right, on to the next one. Now, this is the one, if I had to get rid of one, I'd probably get rid of this one, like for time. Mainly just because you can't do everything in the exam. And if you've only got 25 minutes, you might struggle to get all this in. But I suppose the aim is to try and give yourself time in this one by going quick on some of the other questions. Anyway, so the next thing is import controls. I mean, are these a good idea? The reason why these things will work are because if you put a tariff on there, then our goods might become more competitive. Now, the best way to talk about tariffs and quotas and all that is to draw the diagram. I'm going to do the diagram in this box here because it'll be easier to fit it in. So, if you remember the diagram, there's... lines really annoy me, what's that? Oh god, I can't work that out. Okay, so this is domestic supply and domestic demand. Right. Next thing is, this is the world price. I don't know why I put world price. And then, so you can do little dotted lines here if you want, saying this is Q1 and Q2. So at the minute, the problem is, for UK firms, is the world price is, I'll get my arrow out, one sec. The world price is lower than the equilibrium. So no one's going to buy UK firm stuff. Instead, they're going to buy products from the world market, so it'll be cheaper. So what a tariff will do is it will get a second line, and it will go up here, and it's world price plus tariff. So now, it's different quantities, Q2 and Q3. And by drawing this diagram, you can say what's good about doing import controls. So I'd almost draw the diagram first, then follow it by saying what's good about it. So in this gap, I'm going to say what's good. What you can see is good from the diagram is the government get this amount from, and in that amount they get tax. Also, this many more UK firms will get this much more revenue because they can now compete on the market. And the problem is, there's this much deadweight loss in this little gap here because all these people now can't afford a product they could afford before. Right, so you say that in this little gap here, and then you can go R but, and the big R but for tariffs are, I'm going to try and spell it, it is retaliation, so retaliation. What will happen is other countries will probably do the exact same thing back to you, so in the end it's probably not going to benefit anyone. Right, on to the last one, and we're going to try and get this done within 10 minutes. So the last one is weakening the pound. That's one option, and I like this option. It's a good one. So when you talk about weakening the pound, you don't really have to waste time saying how you weaken the pound. There are a few options. One of them is to reduce your interest rates, but the main thing you've got to say is WIDEC, and talk about how weakening the pound would make our goods more competitive, because exports would be cheaper, and with imports being dear, it means that people from the UK will rather buy their own domestic goods rather than getting imports. Anyway, this brilliant thing about this is your diagram is going to be for the R but, and the R but diagram is, now I need space for this, so I'm going to do it here, is the, J-curve diagram. So this is meant to be the current account, and this is time, and this is 0. So the UK starts in a deficit here, it actually gets worse, and then before it gets better. And that's what the J-curve says. It says if you use weakening the pound, things will actually get worse before they get better. And the reason is because UK firms might be stuck with contracts buying in imports, so they're going to have to still keep bringing in the same amount of imports, but have to pay more for them. So actually, it'll make our current account worse. But then after a while, they can get out those contracts and it'll get better. But that's a really good R but to say in the short run, weakening the pound might make things worse. Another R but is it actually solving the problem? Like, our goods aren't any better, we've just made them more price competitive. So I think it doesn't really solve any issues. You're too dependent on the exchange rate fluctuating. Anyway, so your final conclusion should be, I think, which of these 4 policies is best? Personally, I think it's supply side policies, because they're the ones who actually get to the root of the problem. They make our goods more efficient, productive, and all that sort of stuff. Whereas all the other ones don't actually make our goods any better. So that's my answer. I've done it within 10 minutes. Enjoy.